guys, this is our last week of SpiderWeb. Today's primary focus is going to be on alternative attack options from the SpiderWeb, but I guess I obviously should. Does anybody have anything that they want to troubleshoot about the SpiderWeb that we brought over, or anything I feel like I haven't covered? Anybody have any questions they want to ask about the position before I go into the SpiderWeb content, I should say. Anyway, another?
I do have one question.
Yes, please.
Do you not recommend finishing it on bottom? On top?
Oh, I see. So instead of falling off? Okay. Here's the way I look at it. This is my mindset on that. That is actually a very good question. So what she's talking about, in case anybody isn't sure, let me get you down in the mount. What she's talking about is as opposed to getting to my S mount and then like falling back to this spiderweb situation, why not, she's asking, do I recommend just staying forward and finishing from up here? Okay. Here's the way I look at this. I don't think it's a bad idea to finish on top. I wouldn't call it a bad idea. Okay. What I'll say is this: is that depending on this person, like put it this way, if I get this spider web or this S mount and I expose this wrist, like I might just go ahead and go for the finish. My advice for the finish, guys, is let me take some weight off you. In fact, everybody's do better. Make a big thumbs up. Turn your thumb down and keep going, and keep going, and keep going. You see how you end up arm bar, like at the end of that, right? So let me get you down. So quite often, where people focus on the arm bar is purely just this hyperextension by pressing into the back of the elbow and pulling the wrist in. But if I just turn his wrist enough, eventually that becomes an arm bar. So if let's say I was in the mount, whatever, blah, 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 I scoot up high, whatever, and then I catch the wrist, instead of like focusing on like having to arch my hips, I just turn towards his feet. You ask Mike, it's basically the same experience. Some people will shave the shin over the face, but I think the same principle applies. Where I would say I don't want to go, so if I have the arm exposed, then I think it's a fine alternative. Here's where I would say it has some shortcomings. One is, if he is, let's say I don't get the arm exposed, let's say you tuck the arm in your elbow and now I'm up here, I would categorize a pretty inferior position to fight for this grip because I need my posts to maintain balance, right? If I start kicking my hands up and start losing balance, he bridges really hard, throws right, and then that's kind of where you'll lose the fight. So I need my posts to balance in that sort of floating armbar situation. Does that make sense? So so flaw number one is I can't attack the grip with as much freedom, whereas if I pitch on the back, if I'm in the spider web, like as we established, if my control is solid, I literally don't even need my hands to control him, right? I can just like start pummeling around and fidgeting around in here. So that would be, I would say, one advantage to the spider web is that I can assail his grip better. So if I don't feel like I'm going to immediately get the arm bar, I'm going to go to the spider web. And then reason number two why I would do that is because I'd rather choose when my butt goes to the floor than him choose it. Does that make sense? Like if I'm on top here and okay, let's say you get a defensive grip and I'm sitting here and fidgeting, I don't know what the moment's going to be when he just bridges and explodes really hard to put my butt down, but in the moment where I'm going to try to reclaim a spider web, he might already be stripping and getting that elbow to the mat, and I might already have lost it. Does that make sense? And so I feel like when I'm wrestling guys, especially if they're bigger and stronger, like, and they're explosive, you know, kind of like that, like 200 and 190 to 210 pound range, you know what I'm talking about, like that kind of window. Those are the guys that like, they just explode in moments that are irregular. You might not necessarily be able to time it. And so if I stay on top with the arm bar, like let me put it this way. I feel like you don't often hear people under 170 advising to stay on top of the arm bar because they're so used to getting shaken off that they're like, you know what, I'd rather concede my butt to the floor and win that fight because then I have stability than rely on like my positioning when they're big enough that if they explode or run into me, they might just throw me off, shake me off like fleas. So, does that answer your question? That is a good question. Again, it's not to say that finishing the armbar on top like that is bad. It's just to say that I think it has those two particular flaws. But if you do get the wrist exposed, yeah, go for it. And then I would say the only nuance I would add in is instead of just trying to hyperextend, turn to the feet. Yeah. Right. Does anybody have anything else they want to troubleshoot about the SpiderWeb or armbar, mounted armbar, anything like that while we're talking about it? There's some squeaky stuff going on back there. Yeah. All right. Let me go into what I was doing for my content for today. So today's, let me get you on your back with your head facing back. Okay. So today's primary focus is on alternative attack options from the SpiderWeb. So where particularly this first one I'm going to go into comes into play a lot is when I'm facing somebody who is either really scrambling and I feel like committing to, let's say, you got to grip it sometime. If I feel like committing to a grip break, he's going to get up on top, or, right, maybe he's going to scramble really quickly, or maybe they're really big and I don't feel like I have the positional control to both keep them in and break them, right? So what I might end up doing is throwing something different at them to give them a different thing to worry about. Does that make sense, guys? Now, I might get this different thing, but usually if I give them something, as you'll find in this situation, because I've hyper-isolated these arms, if they defend one, they're going to likely expose the armbar by defending, in that situation. So what am I talking about? Let's start out with basic defenses. Just grab the Gable grip, okay? So I'm here in the SpiderWeb. He's got this Gable grip, and again, for whatever reason, I don't feel like I can just attack the hands and break the grip. Okay. What I'm going to do, traditionally, I want to hold the arm with the arm closest to the head. I'm going to switch that. You could theoretically do the same technique on the other side, but I don't feel like it works as well. This is my personal opinion. So I'm going to switch arms. Just be mindful that anytime I switch arms to holding like the arm closest to the feet as control, I have lost a post. So if he does start trying to do a big bridge instead of, I might transfer back if I feel like I'm losing the position. Okay, so just be mindful that that's a thing you'll have to concern yourself with, right? So I get this. What I want to do is grab like a Kimura grip, make this little triangle, okay? And my objective here, guys, is going to be to tuck his elbow into my armpit, right here, okay? It's actually a nice little control point. You like put your arm out of there? It kind of wedged in there pretty good. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to slide up to his knuckles. Ooh, and wrist lock, okay? You get this wrist lock, okay? So hold tight on that grip. So I just slide to the knuckles and I just start collapsing that wrist in here. Right. Once you start doing this to somebody, the chances are that like once I start bending the wrist, he's going to want to extend his wrist straight, which will make it easy to break the grip and finish. So just in very simple context, he holds this Gable grip. I'm holding with the arm closer to the head, whatever, my standard control measure. One thing that might help with this, by the way, guys, is to lift this and scoop and crisscross your ankles in this situation. I feel like that helps. That accompanies this pretty well. From here, I switch, and I want to holster quickly. And then from here, I'm sliding up to the knuckles, and I'm just dragging those knuckles. And be mindful of this, because you guys, Mike, this kind of goes on fast. Yeah, right here. I could also, by all accounts, go back, please. It's like, I could literally even just start assailing this wrist, too. Right? These wrist locks are pretty easy to catch. And usually when you wrist lock somebody, like really suddenly, they have like that hot stove reaction where they go like, which will let go. So if we're tussling, he's trying to hold on tight. I get my feet, right? I holster, I start sliding up, and then he like releases. Even if I don't get the wrist lock, my arm bar is right here. So let's play around with both things. What Lila brought up, and we'll play around with just that, and then I'll go a couple more attack options from here. So play around with this. You're seated in that S mount. Put your shin over the face. Slide your wrist. So this is what I was talking about, John. Is like elbow all the way up to the thumb groove. You see that? And then again, I'm just going to turn to his feet, and maybe a little bit of hip pressure, but not a ton. Play around with that. And then we're here. I'm holding the arm close to the head. He's got this Gable grip. So I'll grab the far elbow and scoop, so I can get my feet crisscrossed underneath the shoulder. Transfer and tuck that elbow in. From here, I'm just sliding my hand up to his knuckles and wrapping it over. Right. As he releases. You want to see that, Mike? Yeah, okay. Pretty simple stuff, right, guys? All right, so we'll partner up, play around with that, and then I'll show kind of two more different things in a second. All right, 1, 2, 3.